Hello, good morning and good afternoon to all of you out there. We're just going to begin our session. So for today's masterclass, we are going to be having our session on how digital assistants improve order to cash operations. And before we begin, just wanted to request you all to mute your audio. And in case if you do have any questions, kindly post those questions on the chat window. We will be taking those questions as in a sequential manner. And as part of today's masterclass, we are also going to be having a polling in the middle of our masterclass. I'd love to have your responses on the poll once we are onto it, and we'll be sharing the results with you. So for today's masterclass, our expert, order to cash expert, John Salick, he's still with us, and he's been sharing his wide range of experience and great insights in order to cash processes with us. John comes with about 3 decades of experience and high performance deliverables across 250 clients worldwide. And without taking much of a time, I would like to invite John to begin the session. John, over to you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Akshay, and welcome. It's good to share some time with you today. We have another good topic about digital assistants and how they're assisting the order to cash function. And I think you'll find it interesting, and I think you'll some of you'll be a little surprised how far they've come, and how much they are a tool of today as opposed to a system of the future. So, quick introduction. We'll define what digital assistants are in a kind of a non-technical way, and then talk about where digital assistants are really making an impact in 4 order to cash sub-processes. Then we'll have a couple customer success stories for you, wrap it up with a conclusion, and then take your questions. All right, when we talk about digital assistants, what we are really talking about are artificial intelligence powered digital assistants, and they can perform 70 to 90% of manual operations in many of the order to cash sub-processes. Pretty impressive, and you can imagine the impact on productivity. They also improve accuracy, speed, and customer response. And the key point is they're operating today. These are not, a concept near fruition. They're up and running today. So what are digital assistants? Well, start by describing what they do. Obviously assisting your workforce. They also provide information to management and others who may need it. And very importantly, they engage and assist customers 24/7, which is great, particularly if you have among your customer base a significant portion of small and medium-sized customers, because in our experience, those customers typically do not take care of administrative matters during normal business hours. They do it evenings, weekends, and this is where the digital assistant standing ready to assist them at any hour is a big advantage. And quite honest, they perform repetitive tasks, that people don't like to do. And a key capability is the ability to read and extract data from documents in a wide range of formats and in unstructured formats. And this point will come up a couple of times as we go to the specific sub-processes. How do they work? Well, certainly the phrase artificial intelligence, I think most of you are familiar with the cognitive self-learning, which is important because then they improve over time. And the technology they use is called deep learning neural networks. They also employ what's called natural language processing. which really provides a strong ability to interpret text and voice in a wide variety of forms and formats. And then, of course, they integrate with the ERP, because in many respects, what a digital assistant does is it emulates the way a human being would interact with your ERP system. So obviously, the need to integrate with and compatibility with your ERP is very important. Let's take a quick survey here to get you involved a little bit. 2 questions. First one, is your company currently using digital assistants? Yes, no answer. And if yes, in what capacity? Just a chat box on your website to guide visitors and answer questions? Or if you have a customer care portal, 3 choices here. Customers make a payment, help them find information like the status of their account, or help them submit a dispute. Please fill out, Akshay, and Akshay, if you will be so kind as to tabulate the
Sure,
result and share
sure,
them with us
John. I'll
here.
just bring up the poll. I'll just open up the poll for the audience. Request all of you to give your choices. Thank you. So here they are, the results that we've got. So I think we got 29% of saying yes, John, and then we got a few of them actually are opting for the first choice for the second part of the answer, and a few for the third choice, I guess. So that's what it looks like. But we can share the responses as well with the audience as we proceed. Now I'm going to bring back to the slide deck again over here. Okay. Alrighty. John, over to you. You can continue with the next slide, please.
Okay. And these digital assistants, not to insult anybody, but you may have them and not realize them. You think of Alexa and some of the others that are currently in use, and they take many different formats. All right, let's start now and explore how digital assistants can help tremendously in 4 key order to cash sub processes. Let's start off with credit risk management, and look at the activities that a digital assistant can do. Secure the credit application, online format. As many of you have probably experienced, sounds like an easy task, but it's not always that easy. For example, you send a credit app to a prospective new customer. They fill out most of it, but not all of it. So you get it, you send it back to them and say, please fill out questions 5, 8, and 12. They fill out 5 and 8, send it in. You notice question 12 is not answered. So you got to go back to them. And this back and forth eats up not only elapsed time, but work time. The beauty of the digital assistant is, and with the online credit app, is the prospective customer can't submit unless it's fully completed. And then once it comes in, when you think of credit investigations, credit vetting, what takes the most time? Usually gathering the information. I mean, an experienced credit manager can look, once all the information is in, can review that information and come up with a credit limit recommendation pretty quickly. The time often is consumed in just gathering the information. Well, a digital assistant will do that. Bank trade references, credit bureau. If it's an existing customer, retrieve the payment history. And then some very important verification tasks, like does business have a license? What's its sales and use tax status? Is it running afoul of OFAC? It's a do not sell terrorist organization. Things like that. And then with parameters that you would specify, it can digital assistant can do the credit scoring, recommend credit limit, then route it out through the delegation of authority approval chain, and really perform the majority of work in credit vetting. Also triggers the periodic credit limit update for existing customers. And then the last thing is digital assistant also will trigger the order hold capability. I gotta tell you, for a number of customers, they don't have a really good credit process. They really don't have a good collection prioritization methodology. So they just kind of rely on order hold. If a customer's violates a delinquency condition, that order is put on hold. Collector calls the customer and says, hey, really love to fill this order, but I can't do it until you make a payment or a promise to payment. And that's their credit and collection backbone, so to speak. So digital assistant can do all that and save a lot of work. Let's take it to the next step, to collection. What can they do in collections? They can perform an automated collection inquiry sent to customers. And when combined with a customer care portal, can actually secure payments or promises to pay. And how does it work? Well, it sends an email to a delinquent customer. Now you might think, well, all right, it's just an email dunning letter. But it's more than that, because then the digital assistant engages in a dialogue with the customer and ask, these 3 invoices are past due. Can you pay them now? Can you pay them today? And if the customer says, sure, then it'll guide the customer to the care portal, enable them to pay via ACH, credit card, or other method. If the customer says no, then, well, can you pay it in 3 days? And if the customer says, yeah, I can do that, well, then the digital assistant goes into your collection application, sets up a promise to pay with a follow-up date, which is great. And then ultimately there'd be some customers saying, no, I can't pay. I just can't pay, and kind of cut off the conversation. But they'll be on the list again, in a few days, a week later, for that same contact. And when you think of portfolio coverage, which means in a month, is your collection team able to contact every delinquent customer? Most companies would say no. And that's probably not a bad thing when you're trying to control the cost of your credit department. But with digital assistant doing this, you can contact all your delinquent customers, particularly the small and medium ones. And while that'll help cash flow and DSO a bit, it really helps in decreasing the severely aged receivables and therefore the exposure to bad debt. Those smaller medium customers tend to get a little out of control. And when that debt starts hitting 90, 120 days, then you got to be worried a little bit about ever collecting it. So it's a nice collection tool. And again, portfolio coverage is very important, particularly if you have a lot of customers, particularly if you have a lot of small and medium sized customers. So it really guides the customer through it, through the payment process. And I think the benefits, that we list at the bottom here, probably not surprising. Again, I think if this is used primarily with your small and medium sized customers, you'll see a greater benefit with the severely aged AR. And then as a result, you don't need to provision as much in your bad debt allowance. So big help there. All right, where do digital assistants help with cash application? And the answer is a lot. And this might be the sub-process where digital assistants help the most. And just to give you a little historical perspective, I do have that perspective. And you look at the evolution of cash application. I mean, going all the way back to the days when it was 100% manual, which is exactly what it says. You got to read the remittance advice, key in the payment information, match it, clear it. The first big development was OCR, optical character recognition, which could read documents, remittance documents, and then feed that information into an early version of AutoCash and apply payments. Now, hit rates weren't that great, but if you're 100% manual and you adopted OCR and now you're applying 40 to 50% of the payments automatically, that's great for a year or two. And then you're looking for improvement. So the next big thing was just a few years ago was robotic process automation, RPA, and that was another big leap forward. But AI has taken it a step further beyond RPA, and its ability to read and extract remittance data from just all sorts of sources, documents, repositories, and read it accurately. And we'll dive into that a little bit more here. What do digital assistants do in the cash application function? Well, get back to this phrase about extracting remittance data. And I know it appears several times here, but it's very important. And the key terms here are multiple types of sources and documents, multiple formats. The machine learning capabilities help to really learn where every individual customer displays the information required to apply cash. So just for example, Walmart may put your invoice number in the upper left-hand corner. Target may put that same information in the lower right-hand corner. Well, the digital assistant learns this over time and goes right to where it can find the required information. And then, of course, inputs it, has its own AutoCash engine, which applies the payment to the open invoice. We've seen hit rates in the 85 and as high as 95% hit rate. Another big advantage is the digital assistant will create the deductions to be routed to resolution. And again, it can operate round the clock to interface with banks and other sources to get the remittance information. Just a little more detail here because it is so important. When we talk about extracting data from multiple sources, well, what are some of those sources? Well, customer vendor portals. In theory, those portals have everything you need to know about the status of your invoice and the ones that have been paid. Your own EIPP portal. Customer goes in, says, yeah, I want to pay these invoices, makes the payment, and inputs the remit data. What invoices are they paying? Any kind of Excel, PDF file that you get from banks, customers, whatever. And it can also extract data and read from the predominant EDI remits advances, the 820s, and then posts it to the right invoices. Again, integrating with your banking systems, your ERP, automatically applies. Can also execute your tolerance levels. So if a customer pays $998 on a $1,000 invoice, you can set an automatic small balance threshold so that $2 differential is written off and the transaction is closed. Can be a huge help, And again, as I mentioned earlier, the AI digital assistants outperform RPA when dealing with just the wide variety of different document and information formats, and adds to, and that's what helps feed the auto cash hit rate. Quickly, let's look at digital assistance for deductions. As I mentioned in the Cash App section, the digital assistant automatically creates the deduction to be routed with all the required information. Remember, as you route a deduction to the designated resolver in your company, it's really your obligation to provide all the information that resolver needs to be able to make a decision. Is that deduction valid or is it invalid? So this is data, information, documents, and it all gets routed. Digital assistants can extract the reason code, particularly from customer vendor portals. And this is very important because to whom within your organization the deduction gets sent depends on the reason code. So if the deduction is incorrect sales tax rate, that deduction should be sent to your tax department for research and resolution. If the deduction is product never received, that would go to your logistics team to, prove delivery, things like that. So that's very important, capturing this information and routing it. Of course, store and convey all the digital images of the required documents, execute this small balance write-off, and then once the deduction is researched and resolved, and a decision is made that this deduction is valid and correct, we need to issue a credit memo. Once that credit memo is issued, the digital assistant will take the credit memo, the open deduction, match and clear it, and boom, you're done. On the routing, just a little more detailed here. Obviously, you can customize the message and say, it's our company standard that you will resolve this deduction in 5 business days, supply full information, allow rerouting from one resolver to another, and actually route the credit memo request through the approval hierarchy, and very good on the tracking, which is so important. You want to account for every deduction from cradle to grave and track it all the way through its lifetime. It also can do some internal dunning on deductions. Again, if we go back to the 5-day standard, if a resolver is beyond that 5 days, it can follow up and send a little dunning notice. So what are the benefits? Well, listen, I mentioned at the beginning, and I'm sure what's occurring to you, it's productivity. I mean, man, the digital assistant's going to do 80% of my job, frees up a lot of time. But also a key one is the faster response to customers. And in terms of deductions, if the deduction is invalid, the sooner you bounce that back to the customer, the higher your likelihood is of actually collecting it. If you bounce back a invalid deduction to Walmart 6 months after it happened, your chances aren't so good. So the speed, fast response to customers, the productivity, when you use digital assistant to automate your collections, particularly for your smaller accounts, you'll see some benefits in aging, cash flow, bad debt provisions, and it's really a better customer experience, and it's freeing up staff resources for higher level jobs, which they'll enjoy more as well. Quick story here, a global medical product supplier used the digital assistance for deductions, Cash App collections, and clearly the deductions and Cash App go together like ham and eggs. One feeds the other, and look at the results they got. The resolution cycle time reduced to 5 days. I mean, that's great. Auto cash went from 50 to 80%, and saw a nice little drop in DSO. Next one, a building materials dealer that sells to contractors. A lot of their business goes to contractors who are thinly capitalized and rely on the financing from their suppliers. Well, They had some nice new products. Business was growing, signing up lots of new customers, but their credit vetting was falling behind. So they invested in Emagia's digital credit automation solution, which has the digital assistant and the digital credit app with digital signatures, integrated with their Experian credit bureau and their own in-house NetSuite analytical tool. Couple other things very important: automated, the resale certificate verification process, and automated about 80% of the process. Result, they're able to handle the increased volume of credit applications in a much faster manner. So what's our conclusion? First of all, these artificial intelligence powered digital assistants are here today, being used by a lot of companies, huge productivity benefits, faster response to customers, and actually improve accuracy, eliminate the human error. Your questions. Akshay, any questions from the audience?
Yes, John. Before we get started with the question, I just wanted to again brief up on the poll that we did. We got to our first question, like, is your company using digital assistants? Surprisingly, we got 29% of them say yes, and about 14% of them said no. And most of them who said yes are primarily using for the customer care portal to make help customers to make the payments. So that was on the summary that just wanted to bring it up. Now,
Nice.
for our questions in here that we have, I'm going to bring up the first question, which is about um, where within the credit vetting process are the labor savings achieved?
Well, in to what I would call gathering of information. Getting that credit app from the customer, getting it filled out completely, and then getting the trade and the bank references and the payment history and your credit ratings from your credit bureau, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's where the work is. That's where the work time is and the elapsed time. As I said earlier, an experienced credit manager can make a credit decision pretty quickly when they have all the information. So it's really in the information gathering and verification processes.
Thank you, John. Let me bring up the second question that we have in here is, when the digital assistant is involved in collections, isn't that just the automated delivery of dunning letters?
Well, it may seem like that, but that's not really the case because there's this interactive dialogue. Now, it's an email dialogue, and certainly the customer can disengage whenever they want. But it'll come back again in a few days, and it does involve, it does engage in a very professional dialogue. Can you pay now? No. Okay. Can you pay in 3 days? No. Can you pay in a week? No. When can you pay?
Right,
And surprisingly, a number of customers do respond.
right. Thanks, John. I think we're just on top of the hour, but let me just go ahead with the another question that we have in here. This is an interesting one. What is the most valuable operation a digital assistant performs in cash application?
Reading the remit advice in all its variety and different forms, and I guess I'm always surprised by some companies' remittance advice and what it includes and what it doesn't include. Um, and just tremendous variation. And up till now, you needed a human being to be able to search and find, well, I need 5 bits of information. Where are they? But now the digital assistant can do that. And that's where the big time saving comes in.
All right, John. Yeah, thank you very much. So, as we always come to this hour where we are through with our masterclass today, and just wanted to again invite and thanks a lot for our audience for joining us today, and wanted to invite you for our next masterclass for digital invoicing and payments. That's the session that we're going to be having. This is again going to be on a Thursday, March 25th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So please do get onto our website and try to book your seats. We look forward to seeing you out there. Before we wrap up, I would like to again request all the participants, in case if you do have any other questions that you might want to reach out to us, you could send us an email at info@emagia.com. Look forward to seeing you for our next masterclass, Digital Invoicing and Payments. Thanks a lot, John.
My pleasure. Thank you, everyone. Hope to see you at the next one.
Yep, thank you.